is so ordered. And I now
Thank you,
call
Mr.
on
Chairman.
Stearns.
And Mr. Paulson, I hear your pain when you said you're just pained to be on that side of the table answering the gentleman's question. But isn't it true that Goldman Sachs benefited from AIG bailout? They got $13 billion and was the largest recipient of the public funds from AIG. And in fact, creating the collateralized debt obligation, the CDOs, form the basis of the current crisis we have today. But while you were CEO of Goldman Sachs, you were an active part of that business. So my problem is when you say you're pained by AIG, I go back to your bait and switch when you came here into Congress and you suddenly decided instead of buying the toxic loans, you're going to go out and start to give money to these people. So if you didn't have any credibility on the bait and switch, how do you have any credibility today to come before us and tell us that you're pained by AIG?
Well, let me respond.
Do you understand the credibility you have? You came here, you said in this 2.5-page bill that you wanted $750 billion. Then immediately after you got approval from Congress, you changed it. You baited us on, then you switched it, and then you started giving money to these institutions, the top 15 institutions, when all these people who had the loans, you could have worked out a homeowners equity plan around this country to help the people who are actually having their homes foreclosed. And you're helping AIG and you're helping Bank of America and you're bankrupting Lehman Brothers, who was your biggest competition. Isn't there some point you should have recused yourself and said, you know something, all my buddies in Goldman Sachs are over there. You know, I really feel that I shouldn't be making these decisions to make Lehman Brothers go bankrupt, that I really should recuse myself. And the fact is that you're coming here and say you feel the pain of AIG is just, it's just outrageous.
Well, I would like to respond to you, Congressman, because I find your statement outrageous.
Okay,
Mr. Paulson.
Well, let me tell you, I have the time, Mr. Paulson. Let me just say one other thing.
No, I just want you speaking to the mic. Pull the mic
okay.
to you.
Let me just say one other thing here. You know, when you look at, you're saying to us, you support the Obama administration giving more power to the federal regulatory, the Fed. But when you look, the Fed was on, Geithner was on board at the Fed, the New York Fed, dealing with all these institutions. He didn't get it. And then we had this fellow who came up afterwards, Mr. Friedman. He was on the Goldman Sachs board. And he didn't last too long as the Fed chairman. Why? Because he had a conflict of interest. Is it possible that there's so much conflict of interest here that all you folks don't even realize that you're helping people that you're associated with and you should be recusing yourself for America's ethics?
Well, let me make several comments. The first comment I will say is I came to Congress, I asked for the TARP, and I asked for authority to purchase illiquid assets.
But in 10 days you changed your opinion.
We changed because the situation changed dramatically.
In 10 days?
You betcha. If you look at what happened in that 10-day period, you look at what happened around the world, it changed dramatically. Number one. Secondly,
I don't want you to use all my time.
Okay, secondly, but I want to just respond to secondly. I left Goldman Sachs. I sold my shares in Goldman Sachs.
Tax deferred, too. You didn't have to pay any tax on your $200 million.
I sold my shares
in
Goldman Sachs.
There's a clause that if you come into the administration, you sell your assets, it's tax deferred. You don't have to pay $200. If you had $200 million profit and you didn't have to pay any tax, isn't that true?
Listen, it's
is that true or not? Yes or no?
It is. You do not pay a profit when someone a tax when someone makes you sell assets.
Maybe that was an incentive for you to become Secretary of Treasury, so you didn't have to pay the tax there.
Oh. The next thing I would say to you, and say it very, very clearly, is I behaved with the.
You don't think you should have recused yourself when you asked Lehman to go in bankruptcy? You didn't put Bear Stearns in bankruptcy, and then you folded Merrill Lynch into. I mean, isn't there some point where you got to say, "Hey, I got a conflict of interest here"? You don't feel any kind of scintilla of ethics on this thing at all?
Totally. I operated very consistently within the ethic guidelines I had as Secretary of the Treasury, and when it became clear that we had some very significant issues with Goldman Sachs and with
why didn't you recuse yourself
with Morgan Stanley? What I did then, it would have been very wrong for me to recuse myself. What I did was I went and got a waiver from the ethics agreement because when we had concerns.
Who was in charge of the ethics agreement?
What?
Who's in charge of the ethics agreement that you got a waiver?
We have a Office of Ethics at Treasury, and we have a White House Ethics Office.
So you got it from the legal counsel from the White House?
We got it from the Government Ethics Office.
The gentleman's time has expired.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your courtey. And I ask unanimous consent my open statement be part of the record.
Without objection, so ordered.
Yeah.